Okay, my name is Chiwei Huang-Ma, and I'm the Assistant Director for Faculty and Scholar Support at ISSS. And then so nice to see you guys here. Yeah. And then I have my colleagues, Madison, join me today. She used to be one of you. She used to be from the department, and now she become one of us. So today, I think she is the best person in our department. They try to do this presentation because she used to be doing this system on the other side, on the other end. So yeah, so she's
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, I can, it's sharing tips that I remember, but also I understand your pain in other areas. So hopefully, because I know that we do go over kind of basics of iPenn in this, but also along the way, we are going to share kind of tips, whether it's, ways that can help with processing e-forms or doing other things. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of what we'll talk about today. I know we'll try to get through as quickly as possible because I know we'll save time at the end like for questions. But I guess too it's a small group. I mean, we can, you know, figure it out. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
anyways. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my little welcome spiel. But yeah.
Thank you, Madison. Thank you. Madison, because this is such a small group, can we, I'm thinking we just allow them to ask questions if they have any
Yeah.
as we go
Yeah.
through yeah, because that will be easier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
So,
I'm cool
yeah.
with that too. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny because this is my like third time doing it, and each time the group it's been different the amount. So I think this is my first time. It's a small one. So I'm like, oh, this will be cool. But yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, I guess Chew, if you wanted to we'll
Okay.
get this rolling.
Yes. So our agenda today is to the first part will be how to do how to submit and how to fill out the e-form. Okay, how to do your iPenn. And the second part will be we are going to share some tips and tricks for to help you complete your job easier. Okay, and then last part will be Q&A. You guys can just ask questions. Okay. So
All
the
right.
first one is Madison. Madison is going to
Yes.
share her experience from our end and your end.
So the first section is how to in iPenn edition. So we're going to have kind of main sections about, we're going to talk about iPenn. We're going to talk about, we have a few slides on like processing J1, which is DS 2019s, and then as well as like H1B requests. But yeah, if we want to get into it, you can, yeah, there we go. Okay, so starting off, and you guys probably already have this, iPenn access. So if you do already have this or recently did, you probably recall that you had to do an iPenn training that's in Workday that talks about like iPenn and how to kind of general tutorial about it. And then if anyone has it or if someone in your department needs to at some point, again, it's in Workday. You under like browsing learning content, and then you search for iPenn eForm training, and that is one that you do need to complete and pass. After passing, then you're prompted with a link to submit the eForm, which is essentially letting us know that you've done what you need to do, and we'll get you iPenn access. The nice thing with this tutorial is, especially because I know at times it may be for some departments where you're, completing a lot of like J1 DS 2019 requests, but maybe aren't very often doing H1Bs, or in general, you're in iPenn like once every blue moon. This tutorial is always something that you can have access to and just go through as kind of a refresher of kind of things that you need to know. So that is a bonus as well. And then how to sign into iPenn. So that is the general like web address. I know if you go to our ISSS page, I know one of the top tabs is like iPenn. So if you just click on that, and then you'll always click that red yes, Penn Administrator Department Representative login. And yeah, there you go, the star. Okay, and I think Mike, you can click it one more time. I think there we go. Okay, so if you have processed already an IPenn request, or if it is your first time, you'll note that Form 1 is where we do ask for visual compliance. And to be able to have access to that, that's when you register for visual compliance training through that link. It is through Export Compliance. And they'll be notified after you pass the course, and then you have access to that. And then we have a chart there who should be screened. And I know especially in this area, I think, Mike, if you click it one more time, I think it'll circle. There we go. Okay. That's mainly the big area of before beginning the visa application process. I know too that it's not just us that do visual compliance. I know there's other departments that are doing it already for other populations. And if you ever run into any issues, questions, or you get a match that pops up and you need to kind of figure out where to go from there, the director, Jessie Buchanan, she is awesome. She's really great. And that's her email address and phone number. I know in the past when I had to do visual compliance, and let's say I had a match, I know that she just likes to see if you do reach out to her and say, hey, I got this match. I'm not sure what's going on with this case. She usually just asks you to attach a copy of that scholar's or employee's CV to that email, and she'll, I feel, yeah, she's just really awesome as a resource. She's really nice. And yeah, so we're very lucky to have her over in export compliance. Next slide.
Amanda's got her hand up.
Oh, I did not see that.
Thank you. I'm brand new to this process. Can you just briefly explain what visual compliance means?
I was going to ask the same question.
Yeah. So, and Chiwei, feel free to chime in. But it's essentially, especially with having, sensitive research, intellectual property here at Penn, what it does is essentially, if there's pretty much kind of weeding out if there's possibly any like potential affiliations with maybe whether it's an institution or former employer or something of that sort that maybe comes up on other like government lists, whether it is export reasons or I think even sometimes criminal activity, intellectual property issues. And Chiwei, you may be able to add more, but it's essentially just knowing when we're having a new employee come in that they are not affiliated with those entities that could put research or intellectual property at Penn at risk. I mean, if you wanted to add, Chiwei.
And also for the position, a lot of time for position, especially from the School of Medicine or from engineering school, there are some specific information that will be highly related to national security. So we just want to be very careful and try to screen the position. If this position is going to have access to some very sensitive information or information that will be that will expose people to national security, then we want to know. We want to screen.
And sometimes if there's a match, it doesn't necessarily mean that really is a match, because sometimes and that's where Jessie comes in and why she wants people to let her know if something does come up. Because I had someone once that they came up and I said, can you look into this? And she did. And she jokingly told me, unless this scholar is a former like person in the Navy and went AWOL and decided to steal a ship, or there was like some sort of random, she goes, unless it's that person, I think we're fine. I said, nope, this person has nothing to do with any of that. So we vetted it. I know too with visual compliance, if for example, the reason a match is coming up is because just the country that they are from. I know that comes up quite a bit. That's not considered a match. That is just if there's country regulations or restrictions. It's more if their employment history or maybe educational background, if there's a connection with that, Jesse then can help you to at least confirm whether or not it's the match is irrelevant or not. Michelle?
So is visual compliance a platform that we use for
Yes.
a ability to do some kind of background check for someone in this process?
Yeah, in terms of research and intellectual property, and when I said earlier too that other groups, it's not just for like scholars, employees. I know, for example, when I was at chemistry, any postdoc that came in, even whether it's citizen or non-citizen, they do visual compliance. So I know it's not just this population, it's been kind of implemented throughout the entire university. But yeah, essentially it's that of like that there aren't possible connections that could threaten intellectual property here at Penn. So it is more on the research side, but it isn't like a full background check. It's more of just related to research related.
Right.
If that makes
Okay,
sense.
so then this is not something that's built into iPenn. We may be to submit something.
It is actually, Mike, I think it's on the next page if you want to go to that slide, or maybe not. On E-form 1, because I can't remember what the top of my head. E-form 1, I think it's questions 2 or 3. It's either question 2 or 3. It's going to ask you, has this person gone through visual compliance? And if you've already done it, then it's a yes. If it's a no, regardless if it's a yes or no, there is usually a hyperlink there. Like if you haven't yet, please click on this link. And then, as I said before, that there's a training for it. After you go through that training and you get registered for it, you'll have your own login to log into visual compliance. And I know the training tells you how to fill it in. And it's usually, I remember when I did it, it took me no more than a minute to do. You're really just putting in their first and last name, their last either institution or employer that they last worked for, country they're from. Like it's usually things you have in front of you. And then I would usually to put a note in, this person working for Professor this person, something like that. But yeah, so it takes no more than a minute to do, in my opinion. And then you don't need to upload anything. It asks, did you do visual compliance? It'll ask, did a match come up? If it was a no, then it's a no. I think if you click yes, it also reminds you, please contact ORS because you need to get that cleared. It also asks you to provide the date that you did the compliance. So if it's that day, you're just putting today's date. And then if it is something where it's a match and Jessie needs to clear it, again, she can do it over email. And then let's say she goes, okay, this person's good to go. You then can switch that answer from yes, there's a match to no, because it's been cleared. So it is at the beginning portion of E-form 1. But like I said, there isn't, at least the last time I was in it, there isn't anything for you to upload or anything. It's just yes or no questions and then the date that you did this, essentially. Wait, let me go to any other questions on that for right now. Also, if you think of something also while we're talking about other stuff, we will have time to at the end for extra questions if that comes up. Okay, so this slide is how to navigate your cases. So first up, and I think, Mike, if you click again, there we go. So when you log into iPenn, this is what it's going to look like. You're going to see, your pending cases. If you have more than one, because there are some Penn administrators that oversee more than one department. So you'll see those listed there. The reason that departmental services is checked off is that is where we prefer that you go. If, let's say, your homepage looks a little different or you're wanting to go to departmental services, sometimes that's the way that people like to go to access their cases. We just ask that you don't click My Current Cases because I'm not sure why that's there. I feel like Melinda or someone can answer that, but I know that it doesn't properly update the way that it should. I think it's just kind of a glitch with iPenn. So just when in doubt, if you need to kind of reroute back to your cases, or even just want to click on it and see kind of what that does. Again, it's just another way to access your cases, but you just always want to be clicking departmental services if you want to make sure it's the most accurate information. Okay. I guess you can click enter. I think there's going to be more graphics that come up. Yep. So yeah, not that one. And yeah. Okay. So when you click on departmental services tab, and a specific department, as I said before, sometimes it's more than one. Even if you just have one department, it's still going to come up as just you need to click on that department. This is what it looks like. You're going to see all cases that are under that department. And as you can see in the example over to the left, sometimes that is different people assigned to it, because we do have some departments where there are more than one people that can access these. So, but because they're all under your department, you will see other cases. You can actually go into those cases. It's also a great way if someone is out or leaves the department, you still have access to those cases. The only thing is that alerts and notifications regarding the case, whether it's that it's been approved or verification the verification forms that you need to fill out, any notifications like that for that specific application, it does go to that specific person. But if somebody does leave, for example, or just for whatever reason, cases need to be reassigned to you and no longer be with that other person, you can always reach out to one of us here at ISSS, because that is pretty simple for us on the back end. We can reassign cases, even if you had not initially started them. But yeah. All right. So if you want to click enter, I think that's the first. Yeah. Okay. So page basics. So when you are in your cases, like in your department, especially if you've already have a few cases going, you're going to see these three main categories. So if you click enter again, I think it should bring it. Yeah. Okay. So the cases that are listed as pending is from the time they're submitted to ISSS up until the foreign national status changes to active in IPenn. So what that means is, for example, for J1, typically after you've submitted an application, once you get the notification that it's been approved, and it's an incoming initial person, not an extension, that person's case moves up to pending, and it'll stay there until that person arrives and they go through our scholar check-in that pretty much that's how we validate their record and we know that they arrived. Once that all happens, then their case moves down from pending down to the approved section that you see. And then in the interim, though, while you're if it's already submitted and you're just waiting for the application to be approved by someone at ISSS and it's an initial case, it is going to stay in that incoming section. So incoming, and I think if you press enter twice again. Yeah. So in incoming, you're going to have a few types of cases. Incoming is going to be anything that you're currently working on, pending, including, let's say you're working on an extension for somebody, that's going to be an incoming. And then if you've already submitted to ISSS, that pending application is just going to stay there as well, like I said, until something goes on with the application, then it goes up. I know with H-1Bs, though, sometimes I think a lot of the time, as soon as the case has been assigned to an advisor and you're notified of that, then it can move up to pending. But it's more straightforward with the J's. It's either going to be in the incoming section or pending once you get the notification that the DS 2019 has been issued. And then also in incoming, let's say you're doing an extension, it is normal for you to see the name of that scholar or employee twice. And when I say twice, it's still showing in the approved case section as well as incoming, because the approved section shows, okay, this person is an existing person here. but then the incoming case section is that you've started a new extension for them, essentially. And then once that extension is approved, their name just goes away from the incoming, and then it's back to just only showing once in approved. Mike, you want to hit, I think, enter twice? Yeah. Yeah, and as I said, cases are listed as approved once they're active in IPenn. Yeah, so I think that's it for that. Let's see. Okay, so how to add a new case. So for this is first talking about new employees, not extensions. For someone who's brand new, either, yeah, brand new to the department, or let's say it's someone who is working here, but maybe they were on a different visa status and they just haven't had a record in the IPenn system yet. And let's say you're wanting to sponsor them for H-1B. It's essentially whoever's considered brand new to us in IPenn, that is a new case. And so to add the case, you're going to be asked request type. It's going to say a drop-down menu. It's, I think, J Scholar, H-1B, J1 student intern, and then H-1B, and then there's a couple others as well. So you just pick the one that is most accurate to the case. You'll drop down department. For the biographical data, I always suggest when you're first made aware of a person that's going to, need this service, I usually in the past would just recommend, like ask, hey, to that employee or scholar, can you send me an attachment of the first page of your passport? I found that was easier because it is more common for either a scholar employee to either maybe be using a different name, or they may have a much longer name, but they have on their own created just one word for each first and last name, as well as date of births. That can be, because obviously, except for the US, all the other passports have it reversed of month and day versus, day and month. So yeah, I just find for it to be the most accurate information, I use the passport page. And you can't go wrong with that. And then the Penn ID number, if they have one, as I mentioned before, if it's a case where they're just new to IPenn and you're being put in, that you can add it, but it's not required. I don't think even I ever put it in because it just either didn't have it or wasn't sure what it was. Okay, next slide. Okay, as I said, yeah, is this on the passport? Yeah. There we go. Okay, so let's say you have an extension or you're amending them, or an amendment is usually if there's a change with the actual employment itself or any position changes. And then, as I said, what I was describing in the previous slide is a change of status. Someone maybe some people go from J1 to H1B, some are on a previous status that just is not a J1, but they're eligible to go to the H1B. Essentially, if it's an existing person that's in IPenn, you're going to click on their record under the approved list. You're going to click on their name, and then this is the screen or image that pops up, the next page. There we go. So I know that it can be a little confusing when you're seeing each tab says begin, and obviously that's not in this scenario accurately portraying like the reason why you're needing to fill this out. But just know, let's say it's someone who is a J1 and they're wanting to extend their DS 2019, you're hitting begin J1 scholar request. If it's a J1 that's here right now and you're going to move them to sponsoring them for an H1B, you'd be hitting begin H1B, and so forth. I know if you're extending an existing DS 2019, and you hit begin J1 scholar request, I know sometimes it can seem like you're doing the wrong thing when there's a warning that pops up saying like, are you sure you want to do that? It's going to delete previous info, anything like that. You have still clicked on the right thing. But we did just want to point this out because I know that terminology and all that, it doesn't seem like it makes sense based on the reason why you're going in to complete a new request. All right, document uploads. So, there are at times kind of errors that happen with this because I know iPenn can be a little finicky with this. So more often than not, we're seeing that files are too large. They need to be 3 MB or less. And then ways to get around that, because I know sometimes scholars send you something and it's like 1 page of something and it's like 10 megabytes. Like it, yeah. So either like printing as PDF and reduced size. I know Adobe has a compress tool. And then sometimes there's an error with just the file name or file type. So we do accept either PDF or JPEG. I know when I was an administrator, I had issues sometimes with JPEG, so I just always did PDF. And then also sometimes it's even the name of the file itself. If you run into any issues or you've troubleshooted this, and you can't figure this out, just reach out to one of us. I know we'll have contact info actually at the end for our 2 staff members that oversee iPenn. And then another thing is there is a known vendor bug, and it's very annoying, that if you are working on an e-form and you save it as a draft, but you've uploaded documents, those documents may go away, those uploads. So we always recommend to upload when okay, after I upload these documents, I'm going to submit this e-form section. So, and like I said, if any issues come up, we have that contact info at the end. And I see that Michelle has a question.
Yeah, I was curious about that particular bug. I had a faculty member who got really frustrated because what he was asked to upload was a very long list, and when he saved and exited, it all disappeared. It wouldn't allow him to save and exit. Is that related to this bug?
Yeah, it is. If with something like that, though, I think in the future, even if like you're not 100% sure if it is this specifically, you can still reach out to, and again, we'll have for Amanda and Melinda the contact info at the end. You can always email them and let them know, because I know that they save every possible troubleshooting that they've either encountered or know, and so they kind of go through that and help. But yeah, that's most likely what it was. We even see this on the student side when we have students filling out requests. We don't know why it happens. I think on the student side, we were able to correct it, but I know Amanda has been actively still trying to figure this out. But yeah, that it just seems like it's because I know even in the past what I would do if I knew maybe if I didn't have certain attachments yet ready to upload, but I knew the answers to the questions, I'd sometimes just fill out the questions, save it as a draft, and then when I knew I had the attachments for that e-form ready to go, then I went in, uploaded them, and saved or submitted.
Is this disclaimer, this known vendor bug warning, is that something that is also in iPenn in like the descriptive text, or is that something that can be added maybe?
That's a good question. I can look into it. I know that we have, if it is somewhere, it may be on the iPenn page before you log in. But I can ask Amanda because I know that they do put there some basic troubleshooting, including like which are preferred, like web browsers where you may not have as many like glitches or what's preferred for iPenn. But I don't know off the top of my head, but I'll see if we've already put that. But if it isn't already there and we do add it, it would probably be on, like I said, the page that you go on to then click on the red button to log in. Yeah, but no, that's a good point. Thank you, Michelle. I'll add that.
Yeah. And this particular individual, they just ended up submitting it incomplete because they would have lost all their work and that was the only option left for them. So we ended up having to kind of complete a couple things by email after the fact.
Okay.
Just not as secure.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, definitely reaching out to Amanda or Melinda. That is because like I said, you name it, they've seen it with iPenn, and they're the ones who have to, when I say who get to work with it, but also feels like at times has to work with it. But there's even some troubleshooting that I have not even encountered before, and I find out, I'm like, I did not even know that was a thing. So yeah, if they can help in any way, they definitely will. And yeah, like I said, I'll look into to make sure that that info is also on that iPenn page. All right. There we go. Okay. So I think Chiwei.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madison. All right. This is my turn. Okay, so I will mainly talk about the H-1B form submission. So for H-1B form, there are 5 forms, okay, for you to complete this H-1B employee application. So E-form 1 is the department request form that you guys just let us know that you would like to request H-1B. And then even if, well, so now that when you try to mention whether this is a new employee or it's an extension, with this, you just want to know that Madison just mentioned, as long as this person will be in H-1B for the very first time, even though that this person has been working for us, for example, on F1. He is OPT F1 student, and then he has been working for us on OPT and STEM OPT, and now your department decide that you want to sponsor him or sponsor her with H-1B, then you still need to do new employment because this when you look at this whole thing, you want to look at, well, is this person new to H-1B? If this person is new to H-1B, then you should pick new H-1B employment. Okay, it's not about whether this person has been working for Penn for how many months or many years. It's not that. It's as long as this person is new to H-1B, then you have to pick new H-1B employment. Okay, so once you submit this, then this e-form will be directed to the employee. So the employee will receive e-form 2. And then e-form 2, basically, we just like request the H-1B employee to complete a lot of private or personal information on the employee data e-form. Okay, so there are a lot of document upload. They need to upload their passport. They upload their, some of them we will ask them to upload I-20 or DS-2019 and their pay stubs with all this, and then they will need to like just hit upload and submit the e-form too. Okay, so the logging issue, some employee they may have some logging issue. So for those logging issue, mainly usually stem from the employee trying to sign in with Penn key instead of the login detail that was emailed in the e-form. Oh, well, that was in the email that we emailed them. Okay, so if they have any logging issue, maybe this is the issue. Okay, and then if you're still having a difficulty, please just having them contact us. Okay. All right. Okay. Um, so E form 1 to 3. Well, so
And I
Michael,
can,
can you go
yeah.
back to go ahead. Yeah, go ahead,
No, I
Madison.
know
Do you
that,
want to add something?
yeah, just I know that this, let me see. It's more in terms of like when you can fill out certain e-forms. I know too, you can even go out of order if you need to. But yeah, just
Oh,
was more gonna add to that,
yeah, please.
Chiwei, if you needed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please, Madison.
Yeah, so e-forms 1 to 3 are edit, you can edit them up until the submission of e-forms 4 and 5. Because if it's similar to when you're requesting a DS 2019 of there's 4 e-forms, and once you get to e-form 4 and submit, the application's submitted. You can't do anything else with it. But once you submit e-form 4, that is when you're in the final stages of, okay, it's submitted with ISSS, and now you're just filling in E-Form 5, which is some document uploads that you do on the department side, but that there's kind of, it's the point of no return. And then let me see. Yeah, E-Form 4,
Yeah.
it's only available after those E-Forms are submitted. And then I don't know if Chiwei, you want to
Yeah, go ahead.
say the rest.
And
Yeah.
then E-Form 4 is basically just like Madison mentioned, that you have already complete E-Form 1 to 3, including the employee data E-Form. And then E-Form 5, when you come to E-Form 4, then that's the time that we will ask you to pay. Okay, that's the time we will need to ask for a budget code, and you want to process our internal processing fee for the H-1B request. So once you complete E-Form 4, then it like the whole thing will come to E-Form 5. Okay, so E-Form 5 is only available when all the previous 1, 2, 3, 4 E-Forms submitted. And then E-Form 4 also contains a link for you to print all the document that you need to sign and upload into E-Form 5. Okay, so in the E-Form 4 that you will find a link, and then this link will lead you to a printable document, several documents that you need to sign for us to submit to USCIS as well. Okay, so ISS does not consider the H-1B application received, okay, until E-Form 5 is submitted. What I mean is that we won't assign your case to an advisor to literally start to process your H-1B until everything's submitted, until E-Form 5 is submitted. So some BAs like contacted us and said, well, I already submit everything, but why your department hasn't assigned an advisor, or why it's like we haven't heard from you. So at that time, you just want to go back to the E-Form and see whether you have complete everything. Maybe there's something pending in E-Form 4, or the employee haven't submit everything, or haven't submitted the E-Form. So just want to make sure that unless we receive E-Form 1 to 5 and E-Form 5 has been submitted, that we won't assign you a case to an advisor to start processing. Okay, Michelle, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to double check. I apologize if I missed it already being said. Are there notifications that we receive to let us know if something is missing or if we're the one that's delinquent?
Yes. So I know that our system, I believe it's like 4 or 5 days. It knows when there's inactivity, in the sense of because you'll get an email notification first after you submit Form 4. And it'll say, it's submitted. Now all you need left to do is to please complete Form 5. And then it'll have the reminder similar to what Chiwei just said, in terms of like cases not considered submitted and assigned to advisor until that happens. And then after a few days, I think it's 4 or 5 days, if the system is noticing that there has been no activity on it and E-Form 5 hasn't been submitted, you'll get a notification again. And that notification I think it may have a deadline on it. It may not, but it's definitely, if you get that notification, then in our system, we're not seeing Form 5 as being submitted. Now, if you ever get that and you're like, no, I clearly did, obviously reach out to us. But I think that's very rare, if at all, happens. But yeah, that's how the notification system works.
Okay, thank you.
Got it.
Yep.
Thank you, Madison. Okay, so Mike, can we go to the next? Oh, okay. Okay, so just for your beta rocker, okay, for you to keep for future reference. So after you submit E-Form 4, but before you submit E-Form 5, okay, between 4 and 5, we recommend you to save a copy of your H-1B E-Form application. As you can see there as an arrow, the red one. So you are able to view and save and print the E-Form group Okay, so for this, that you can just save a copy of whatever you have already filled out, and then perhaps next time when you try to do the extension or something, that you will have a reference. You will have a reference as to what you have submitted in the previous time. Okay, so this option is only available up until the time the e-form submission of the e-form submission. Okay, so before you submit e-form 5, that you can try to save a copy of the application that you submitted. Okay, and then on the continue H-1B employee request page, you can click, yeah, this is the thing. You can click view, save, or print e-form group. Okay. All right, and then you will be able to get the PDF file of what you have submitted. And yeah, so I think that's it. It's just for you a better like reference in case that in the future you are going to apply for an extension for the same person. Okay. So
All right.
Madison, yeah,
Yeah.
Madison is as per
For
and requesting checks. Yeah.
for many, this is a favorite topic for some administrators. So as part of the H-1B process, there are not only in e-form 4 where you're asked for that budget code for that internal IPenn processing fee, there are checks that do need to be issued. That those are the checks that actually are included with the application when it gets sent off to USCIS. You can request checks as early as when you've submitted e-form 5, or if you are, once you get that notification that like it's been assigned to an advisor. The nice thing over the past few years, I think it was a product of the pandemic, is checks used to expire. They do not anymore. So before there was a certain time frame when we would recommend to
3
request
months.
them.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, but now it's go for it whenever you would like, and they'll be just ready to go for us to use when the application goes out. You'll also be reminded at some point to request checks if you haven't already. There is a step in the application called notice of filing, and you'll get email updates about this. When you get to that step, it says, notice of filing and kind of what is going on with that step in that email. But then within that, there's a red box that does say, if by now you have not yet requested checks, this is the time to do so. So we do put that reminder. If some of you aren't familiar with the process, because sometimes with each department it's different. Sometimes the Penn administrator themselves are the ones that are authorized to request it. Sometimes it needs to be in your business office, and they're doing it on your behalf. But submitting these requests, it's through Penn Marketplace. You do a non-PO request. And whether this is a reminder, whether you're the one doing it or if you're informing someone that they need to request it on your behalf, they have to mark the request as will call. And because in the request, there is a section that says, is this a will call check? And they have to mark yes. If they don't, and we actually had this recently where it didn't get checked off, accounts payable, whenever they issue any kind of check, if it doesn't say will call, they automatically approve to them is that they have cut the check, and they just automatically mail it out to whatever address was provided. That unfortunately does not work with USCIS, because they get thousands, if not millions, of applications, and there's no way to match those checks that go out with the application. So that's why we request will call, because then that means those checks can be picked up. We have someone that goes every Tuesday and picks up any checks that have been issued to Department of Homeland Security. They come to our office. And then depending on what the type of application is, sometimes you don't need all 3 of these checks. Sometimes you may just have 2 or 1, whatever it may be. Each check request has to be a separate request. Like you can't do one non-PO request and cover all 3 of these fees. You have to have an individual one for each of how many checks you need. And then if you're unsure, if you haven't had to request checks yet, if you haven't done H-1B yet, and that's when we recommend, figuring out, contacting your business office essentially, because they would be able to let you know, in the future, are you going to be the one that's authorized to submit non-PO requests? Do they prefer non-PO requests to be given to them and they do it on your behalf? I think it's helpful, especially if you haven't done it before, kind of ahead of time, figuring out what the arrangement is. Or there's some departments that maybe don't do H's as often or if ever. And so it's also a good way to keep your business office in the loop of kind of, hey, if I ever do have this type of application, it's going to involve this type of request.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we do, okay. And then just a reminder that the premium processing fee has increased to
yes.
2805 from 2500. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then for every H1B who is new to UPenn, every H1B who is new to UPenn that your department want to add is 500. And then also, of course, for the new employee, for the new employment. Yeah. So.
But if you ever have any question, if you're ever like, you don't know which ones you're supposed to request or, anything like that, you can always just reach out to the assigned advisor at the time.
Yeah.
They'll definitely let you know what checks we need for that specific type of request. Yeah, they can confirm.
Yep, that's correct.
Oh, I see. Michelle?
Oh, yeah, Michelle.
So these kinds of changes in pricing, as someone who likes to try to get ahead of tasks and get them done in advance, do you suggest a certain time window that is safer to make a request for a check in case of a change in the future? Like, don't get it until 3 weeks prior, a month prior, like don't get it 4 months in advance, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you don't. I think you want the earliest that you can get it, obviously, is when you submit it. We'll let you know, though, because, for example, with the premium processing, how it went up recently, as soon as we were informed about, and I think it was 1 to 2 months prior, we do reach out to the BAs and we say, hey, if you already requested check or if you're needing to, contact your assigned advisor because by this date, applications that go out by this date, we can honor the 25, the old fee essentially, but then after this, we need to have the new fee. So, but like I said, usually we try to, as soon as we find out, that's what we'll do. We'll let you guys know. You can always also, if you prefer to wait a little bit into the process, like for example, the next step typically when you're assigned an advisor is your advisor will do what's called an initial review. And they'll go through documents and then email and say, hey, this is what I've looked at so far. If you want to wait for that. I think though, you definitely at the very latest just want to be putting that through when you're at the notice of filing stage. So yeah, so kind of a yes or no, but we try as early out as possible. If there is going to be a change in fee for that reason, we try to as soon as possible. And if in the event they don't kind of match up and let's say you do have a check that does have to be changed, I mean, that's when there is you're able to do a stop payment and reissue. That's through accounts payable. So it is fixable. It's not like once you have this check, then that's what you have to deal with. There is a way also to reissue an edited check if necessary.
Yeah, just to add, like for this premium processing increase, it's not very common. Okay, it's not like happening every month or even every year. Okay, so yeah, so but then just like Madison mentioned, that once we learn something, we always will try to communicate with the department as soon as possible. But this is not very like it's not very it's not happening very often. Yeah. All right, thank you. Okay, so the next thing that we are coming up that we want to talk is about H1B end of employment. So for end of employment, that means that, well, this person either quit or they resign, or your department has a major layoff, and then one of and then one of the employees, they were laid off, was actually an H-1B. So for those situations that with involuntary termination, that means that this person is laying what has been laid off. For this kind of situation, that in addition to like submit this end of employment e-form, you need to contact me. That we do have a process that the person need to be given the transportation to go home. Okay, so we can talk about that in another occasion, but just want to let you know that if this is involuntary termination, then the process is more than submitting this end of employment e-form. Okay, Madison, do you want to add something?
Yeah, so for end of employment too, when you click on end of employment, there's multiple reasons why you could be filling that out. End of employment sometimes is not that the actual employment itself is ending, but let's say they have a new visa status, or they just got their green card and they just no longer need to be on H-1B. You could also be informing us of that. So when you click on end of employment on the next page, there is a drop. It asks like, why are you filling this out? And there's a drop down of reasons. I always recommend, because each reason is going to require different documents or different requirements. If you're ever unsure, I say go in first, click on the reason in the drop down, and then it'll populate and prompt what it's going to ask you for. So for example, if it's a green card, it's going to say, okay, can you please upload the front and back scan of the card? So that's your way of knowing, okay, I need to reach back out to the employee and ask them to provide that to me. Or if it's someone that they are just resigning because they found a new job, or they are just deciding to, they just want to go back to their home country. That is typically, I know, it'll ask for, okay, can we have a letter of resignation? So sometimes that helps, just going in preemptively seeing, especially after they email you saying what's going on, and then for sure you can know kind of what is going to be asked of you. And just I do know we're at like end of time and we're behind on this. I know this is this is a presentation that we try hard to fit into an hour, and it's either a hit or miss. I think I'm okay to stay on. I can understand though if Michelle, Amanda, if you do have to leave at 3, if you have something else scheduled. But just wanted to let you know that. I don't know, Chiwei, do you have to leave at 3?
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
Well, as far as I know, that I know Amanda and Michelle, they handle a lot of H-1Bs, but I'm not so because the last part will be on Jay after this H-1B position description. So how about we complete this position description, and then if they are interested in learning Jay, that we can continue. And then if they have to go, then yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
The benefits of having a small group this time.
Yeah, let's try. We can be flexible and we can get into detail. Okay, so for H-1B position description, a lot of time that we receive this position duties or job duties that has some that we need to do some adjustment. Okay, so just to keep in mind that this position description is written for a lay audience to read. What I mean is that these people know nothing about your specialty, including us. Okay, so we just want to try to write it as clear and concise and as easy to understand as possible. Okay, so you guys can use the job duties on the scholar's workday record as a reference. Most of the time on the workday record has a very complete and concise description, and then try to include 3 to 5 active sentence. For example, maintaining, overseeing, or developing, or assistant, or performing duties, or things like that. As you can see on the right, there is a symbol. So just want to make sure that you put all this active verb. Okay, at like in the beginning. Okay, and then try to use easy to understand language. Yeah, that's correct. And then also try to avoid putting certain professor's name in the job duties. Okay, you can say principal investigator, but you do not want to say Dr. Larry Brown or something. Okay, you just want to say principal investigator, and the duty is, well, this person is responsible for performing, assisting, overseeing, or developing, or supervising, or something. Okay, and then at the end, we always like to recommend to add additional duties as a sign. That means that, well, if there are something that's not included, like if there's something that is not included from the uh, previously description, then this all the other duties that is related could be included. Okay, so it's called additional duties as a side. Okay, so next slide.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so this is the verb, the active
Yeah,
verb.
it's almost like when you're writing a resume and you have to start them with the actions. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And this is another example. This is a real example, and this is a good position description. So we use this as an example. Okay, so you can see on top of that, there is the official position title, and then you want to put in your department's name, and then, well, let us know whether this is a part-time or full-time, and the annual wage. And then when you try to write your position description, then, well, just like what I say, don't mention the PI's name and use active sentences. So this is a good job duties. And then minimum requirement of degree. It's very important. Okay. So either bachelor's, master's, or PhD. Okay. Just want to make it very clear. And then if this job could take people that before PhD, but then is about to get PhD, it's fine. You can say ABD or something acceptable too. Okay, things like that. But just want to make it very clear. A major field of study need to be uh, need to be mentioned about the field name. We see a lot of departments say PhD in biology, but then in this, we are not actually asking about a degree. We are asking about a major field of study that require for this position. Yeah, so it's, yeah, for this is a very good example. Okay, biology, biological science, or bioengineering, or related field. We like to make it like inclusive. So related means that, well, if this person has some degree that is not directly the same name as biology, at least related field could cover this person. Okay. So any additional requirement most of the time are for people who require license to do this job. For example, doctors or nurses, they require some sort of a special license, the PM medical license or pathology, fellowship completion license or things like that. So most of the time for people who does not really require license to practice in the United States, that we do not have additional requirements. Okay. And the next one, years of experience, that you can just put in the one that the workday or HR requirement that specifically for this job title. Okay. A number of employees that this person will supervise, then you want to make sure that when you put in a number there, that means that this person has to decide the staff's promotion or annual performance evaluation. So it's not like, oh, I supervise you complete this project. No, this person has to decide the salary, the promotion, the annual evaluation of that person's performance. Then we can use supervise. Okay, then
And
we want to put in a number.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I did want to
Sure.
add for, like, let's say you get a position description from a PI or a different supervisor, whoever is going to be supervising this employee. and you get a position description that you're kind of reading through and you see some obvious things that you're like, okay, I think this needs to be elaborated on. I know for me, for example, it was in chemistry, I was seeing a lot of like different type of acronyms or things like that. I would go back to the PI and I would just say, hey, like I noticed that you put this type of, you know, whatever it was, like acronym, can you let me know what that stands for? And you can add that into the application. Because I know sometimes, especially if more often than not, you're looking at position descriptions that are maybe just added to the offer letter itself, though I feel like more times than not, they're definitely not in layman's terms. So, and we can always kind of assist if needed, but I just say, if you can skim through it a little bit, and if you see some obvious things like that, where you're like, can you just, either what does it stand for, or i.e. talking about this or whatever it is. If you see some obvious things that stand out to you, that's typically how I used to approach it. Because I worked in chemistry, but I have an English writing degree. I do not know it. It's all over my head. So yeah, that's my kind of tip from, having to do these quite a bit. I know we're now at the J side of things. It's I will say it is briefer than the H side. So I guess I'll leave it up to you guys, and Michelle and Amanda, if you want us to share that stuff, we can. Yeah, I see Michelle's thumbs up.
Michelle is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess, Amanda, it's up to you if you want to still stick around and look at this, but then at some point, if you do have to go, that's okay too. But yeah, we can just quickly go through this. Are you okay, Chiwei, or do you need to
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. So next, J1 e-forms, and you're going to see some similarities between like H1B and when you're filling out a J1. And the J1 is essentially that you're requesting a DS 2019 immigration document to be generated. That's what you're requesting. So a main difference is this has 4 e-forms instead of 5, because this is an application. It can all be done electronically. It doesn't require at the end, then you have these pre-generated documents that have to get signed. It's e-forms 1 to 4 cover it all. E-forms 1, 3, and 4, those are the responsibility of the department, or the department representative. So e-form 1, it's similar to the H side, where that's where you're providing information about the position and the employee, where visual compliance will be asked about. E-form 3 is where you share with us, what their salary is going to be, what their funding sources are, and if it required a dean approval, that's, especially for SAS, that's where that will go. And then form 4 is similar to H1B, where that's where you're providing a budget code for that internal processing fee, and some couple other things. So that's why e-forms 1, 3, and 4 are department. E-form 2 is the responsibility of the scholar. So similar to before, you saw H1B employee data form. This is the J1 scholar data form. And that form is going to ask them to, certain questions about their history, uploading certain documents. Yeah, so, and you'll be able to see, I think a big difference between H and this is after a scholar submits, you'll not only be able to go in and see what their answers were to the questions, you'll also be able to see what they uploaded, because I know you don't really get to see that on the H side. This form of iPenn, for some reason, it allows you to look at that. So there's that as well. And then same as before, e-forms 1 to 3 may be edited up until you submit form 4, then it's permanent. You can't do anything with them anymore. And then the same, all e-forms 1 to 3 have to be completed in order to be able to do form 4. For e-form 2, the J1 Scholar Data Form, if, for example, the J1 has a spouse or a child that they want to bring with them as a dependent, that would be a J2 dependent. And there is a prompt in there that one of the questions asks, do you plan to bring family with you, for this appointment or position? And then when they click on yes, it will instruct them how to go about requesting the J2. And then I know that sometimes there is a login issue that does stem from a scholar trying to sign in, especially if it's an extension, sign in with the Penn key instead. Same as with the H, the email notification that they get to do Form 2, it's going to have login info and then as well as a login reference photo, which is nice. We have both visual and written instructions. Okay. So, oh, this is actually what we were talking about earlier, the visual compliance. So this is what it looks like for the J. And this is, I think it's like question 2 or 3. It's up at the top. And it's going to ask you, have both the scholar and home institution been screened through visual compliance? And that is the URL if you click on that hyperlink. I recommend that you right click and put open link in new tab because it doesn't always do that. And then if you click on it, then your iPenn stuff goes away, and then trying to go back to it can sometimes be a fail. So I just always say open link in new tab. So if you click yes that you've done it, then that prompt will come up as, was there a match in visual compliance? And that's what I said before. If you do click on yes, it's going to say, okay, you need to contact ORS. If not, then you're just entering the date. I think too, if you put no to if the person has been screened yet, I think an alert pops up that just says, okay, you cannot continue further until you've done this. Okay, so after submitting Form 4, that's when we strongly recommend saving a copy of the J1 e-form application. But this side of this for the J is not as finicky as the H1B to where you have to click on a certain button. If not, you're not going to get what you're looking for in terms of a summary. If you are either on like the main page for that scholar where you have like continue requests, begin a new request, all of that, if you can either click on that button at the very end, that's view print most recent J1 scholar request, or up in the top corner, you can click on view save print eForm group. And then what it does is it creates a PDF of all the submitted eForms and documents from the J1 Scholar application. I used to save them. I just thought it was helpful, especially even too if there was something on the ISSS side needed to follow up and kind of questioning, and it's been a while since you did that request and you need to refer back to it. Another thing I did want to bring up though, I think this is still a thing with iPenn. Even though you can click on those two buttons and you get the same thing, I know that the format can sometimes just look a little different. So everyone has their preference. I recommend if you haven't done it yet, just to click on both at some point, and just see the type of format you like. It's all the same info. It just looks a little different. So I know everyone's different in terms of how they prefer to view it. Okay, so reporting end of employment for J is a little bit different. There isn't going to be an end of employment or end of appointment type button. What you'll do is when you're on that main page for a scholar, like I said, where it has like print, begin a request, whatever you're doing, up in the top right, you're going to see an edit button. So you're going to click on that. And then you're going to see that an editable form or area of the form is that end date. Now, the only time that you are going to edit this end date is if the employment is ending early, and you will put the last date that they're expected to be working at your department. You're not going to do this for extension. Extension, as I said before, you're going to be beginning a new request and doing that. Once you change the date and you submit it, we get an automatic notification. We've just found this is the easiest way to do it, where an edit has been made, we get notified, and then when we see it's a program that's being shortened, that's when we'll reach out to you and say, what needs to be done, extra steps, but that it's usually pretty straightforward. It doesn't require not nearly as much as with the H, as I said before, a letter of resignation, things like that. Doesn't require that much, but we've just found this is the easiest way for at least to kind of trigger in our systems that you are wanting to shorten the program date. Okay. So some tips. The nice thing with these forms, and I know it's with H to an extent as well, they don't have to be submitted in order for forms 1 to 3. That sometimes helped me a lot in the past, especially if maybe I was able to fill out form 1, but I'm still waiting for the department to, whether it's the dean approval, if you're in an arts and sciences department or whatever it may be, but you can at least send the form 2 to the scholar. You can go ahead and do that. Or sometimes it's you're still waiting on the scholar to fill out the form, so you're just going to go ahead and fill out form 3. So sometimes it can be a time saver, especially if you're waiting on something from whether it's the department, the supervisor, the scholar, that you can kind of in the interim get as far as you can with it. The other tip is with personal funding. So any non-personal funding sources, that is what you're putting in form 3. And it's self-explanatory in terms of it asks you some yes or no questions to kind of figure out what type of funding you're going to be uploading. But if it is someone that is coming on personal funding, they are going to upload it to their form 2. But there are some requirements with that, because if it is personal funding, we do ask that a currency conversion is added on as an additional page. And we recommend xe.com. And actually, that is a screenshot of what xe.com looks like. But I know sometimes that can be hard to relay to the scholar, or if you're just wanting to make sure, the first time around they uploaded, they're doing it right. What I used to do is, especially since anyways, you should be receiving their funding proof and just making sure it all looks okay. What I typically did in the past is I would, if it was a good personal funding, it's legitimate documentation, I was adding it on myself and then reaching out to the scholar saying, hey, in the next few minutes, you can expect to receive this link that's going to ask you to fill out this e-form. Because you have personal funding, when it asks you if you have personal funding, please say yes. And then the attachment in this email, please attach this document. However you want to do it, but that I just found over the years to be the easiest way to do it. Just so then, because then you won't know until they submit. And then if you're going through the documents they submitted and then you're like, okay, this is wrong, then you're kind of having to backtrack, have them edit. So I just found that this was the easiest way to do it. Yeah. Okay. So once, and this is for both H and J. Wait, is this you, Chiwei, or is this
No,
me?
it's fine. It's fine. Yeah.
Oh no, this
Well,
is.
it's
Yeah,
me, but then Madison, you can continue if you want.
Okay.
But then I can also do it if you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't run out of steam yet, so I can do that. Okay, so for both H and J, whether it's, for example, H would most likely be if the approval notice has come through from USCIS that the case was approved, and then J, it would be you're getting a notification from us that the request was approved and a DS 2019 has been issued for that person. There's 2 things that you can either do. You can either on your own, you can set up a pickup appointment for us. And I think too, even in the email that you receive from us informing you of whichever set approval, that will have information in that hyperlink of how to schedule up a pickup appointment. We have a ton of them throughout the day, ton of options, because I think we set the appointments like 5 to 10 minutes. So there are a lot of options for just scheduling something. And it's our way pretty much of just knowing who's coming that day, because we do try as a way to save time. Every morning, our admin is like, okay, who has a pickup appointment today? And she actually pre-takes out those documents. So they're ready to go. So you're not having to wait on us to get those documents. Pick up the appointments. You're going to find them between 10:30 to 12:30, as well as 1:30 to 3. 12:30 to 1:30, we're closed for lunch. If you don't want to pick up, or if it's something, for example, approvals more often than not, it's for a new applicant and it needs to be mailed to them, or whatever it may be, you can request document shipping as well. on that scholar or employee's iPenn page, you will see that button that says request document shipping. And it depends on how you want to do this, because essentially what we're going to ask you in that form, like which type of document are you asking for us to ship? We like DS 2019H, there's a drop down option for it. And then we ask you to upload a shipping label, that it's, 8.5 by 11, and that the department is the sender. So I know each department's a little bit different. I know that you could use, Penn eShip, for example, if you're wanting to do it that way. And then I know sometimes if you're, again, everyone is different. If you're preferring that the scholar employee pay for that, then it's them generating a shipping label, putting the sender as your department, and then they're sending you a PDF version of that label so you can upload it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And then we'll send you a notification when it goes out that, hey, our carrier is coming to pick this up today. And then let me see, an iPenn scholar, yeah. And a scholar can request and pay to have their documents shipped to them as well. So there are some options with that. And I think it's because the request for shipping itself is pretty simple. It's just kind of how your department works and who is going to be generating the label, who shouldn't be, all of that. Okay. I guess, Chiwei, because you may have more up-to-date info on this than I do, so I think this is you. Oh, I think you're muted, Chiwei. There you go.
Yeah, okay. So this is for verification. So every department, once you submit an e-form, and then once this H1B or J has come to UPenn to start working, that every 6 months that you guys want to submit a verification notice to us and let us know that whether there's any change in their position, either there's a job duty change or the salary change. But then if there's something change in an H1B some employment, for example, that you guys want to pay this person double, or you guys want to decrease the salary, or this person has added a supervisory duty, or something like something significant change, that please remember to let us know. So at that time, you want to submit an iPenn detail. So we will decide whether an amendment will be needed. But then as long as there is a change in the employment, you should let us know. Even it's not 6 months verification. 6 months verification is just like reminder, and then just need to let us know like 6 months that you want to submit this verification. But if during this 6 months there's something happen to the employment, please do submit the iPenn detail through through not through eForm, through iPenn eForm, so that we will decide whether an amendment is needed. And then if they said that if you guys are going to give an H1B a new title or something, please do submit this iPenn detail and do not do any change until we get back and say, well, there is no amendment needed or amendment is needed. So if an amendment is needed, this person cannot start his new position until we submit the amendment petition to the USCIS and the USCIS receive the petition. Yeah.
And I'll say this also includes because I know recently, for example, for postdocs, those salaries jumped quite a bit, increased. Even if it's because I know more often than not, when you're renewing like a postdoc, for example, usually that's when the salary increases are lining up with that, and you may not be making these changes. But if, for example, what happened, in this new fiscal year where postdoc structure did change, and it did impact where some were effective immediately, even if someone wasn't up for reappointment yet. Even something like that, even if it's, Penn wide, the change, just anything that is going on, a change in salary that is just before the renewal or whatever it may be, just to let us know. Yeah, I just wanted to include that.
Okay.
Yay.
So yeah.
We did it.
We
Thank you
did
guys
it,
for
but then yeah,
sticking
thank you
around
for
too.
sticking around. It's almost like, yeah, 1.5 hour that we keep you here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions for right now? Oh.
No questions from me. It looks like on my to-do list, I'm going to do the iPenn e-form training and then do that short visual compliance
Mhm.
training for my next steps. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I said, too, especially when you get to the visual compliance, I mean, if you have any with iPenn, we're the contact. But like I said, Jessie Buchanan is really great. So even if it's an issue with the training itself or whatever it may be, even though she's one of those that even though she's director, like she does it all. So but she's always available for questions, things like that. So if you get stuck anywhere, she's the contact for that. And then actually, if you have any issues with the training or even after the training for iPenn, figuring out or if you're not seeing clearly how to officially request the access, these two contacts on the screen right now, they are the contacts to go to. I know both of their email addresses too are on our website under our like ISSS staff section. But Melinda is our assistant director for like IT and iPenn, and then Amanda is our CVIS analyst, but she oversees iPenn as well. And actually Amanda too is a former advisor, so she also has that background too. She can maybe if you have an extra question to sneak, she can help you. But yeah, so those are your contacts.